So, jumping into the next meeting here, super excited. About to interview Mike, who is a real estate broker. This content is going to be amazing for you guys. He is a master of putting together art shows and real estate. Art show and luxury real estate is the new commingling relationship, and boy is it profitable if you do it right. So I'm super stoked. Let's go, let's roll, let's do it. Today, our guest is Mike Schulte. He's a real estate broker here in New York City. Not only that, but he's a master in mixing real estate and art together. I hope we can bring a lot of value to you. All right, Mike, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. So happy to be here. I'm excited to really interview you and ask you all these questions, man.
Cool.
I know you're going to bring a lot of value to our,
I hope.
to our watchers here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Tell us a little bit more about your background. Where did you grow up?
Here. Born and raised in New York.
Nice.
My parents still live in the same house. I grew up in Arrigo Park.
Okay.
In Queens. And other than being away at college, which was in Western New York, I've been in New York City my whole life.
Wow. How would you say living in the city kind of impacted you as a person with like all your characteristics? How has that impacted you?
I mean, listen, I living here your whole life, you're a little immune to it because you build up that thicker skin that you just don't naturally see unless you leave. So you become aware of what New York is when you leave New York.
Right.
So like if you go north or you go west or you go to Europe or Africa, you very quickly realize that there's not many places like New York. Mm-hmm. There are some, there are some population centers throughout the world that are very similar.
Right.
But it's just me. Like it's how I move. But I'm also as comfortable in the country as I am in the city. So like I could be deep into the woods, and then 5 hours later in Soho.
Nice.
And be just as comfortable in both environments.
Right. Okay. Got it. All right. So, what really inspired you to get into real estate?
So I wasn't inspired.
You were inspired.
I'll tell you that.
Okay.
So before I was doing this, I was running Circuit Cities, if you remember the electronic retailer. Mm-hmm. And when they went out of business, so did my job.
Yeah.
So I took some time off. I sat on my couch for about a month and watched Family Guy in South Park. And
nice.
I went to Africa for a little bit. I went to Egypt and Sudan. And my father had been in real estate for about 15 years at that point. Yeah. And he always used to be like, oh, come do this, you'll love it, you make a lot of money, blah, 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 blah. And I was making a lot of money, so I never listened to him. But I was like, you know what, let me go try this. Like, I was really kind of done with corporate America and, like, working for somebody else. So I was like, I've sold shit my whole life in some capacity.
Right.
Let me try to sell real estate. And that was 10 and a half years ago. And I haven't looked back since.
Wow, okay. So it wasn't really like... It wasn't something you looked at and you were like, oh man, I'd love to get into real estate.
Not at all.
Just kind of fell in place.
I used to make fun of my dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, from my understanding, art and luxury real estate is really like the new profitable companionship. So, how did you start combining both of them?
So, I really kind of, in the last couple of years, in probably the last 18 months, have really decided that I'm going to start bringing together shit that I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. So I'm not physically artistic in the least. It's just not who I am. Like I fuck up stick figures. But I've always liked art. So I was like, well, the beauty is I have the space for it because I have all these listings throughout the city, and realized that I had an opportunity to make an inroad into the art world. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, let's try this. So I realized a couple things. I realized, one, in order to make my way into the world, I had to have something to offer that nobody else was offering. Mm-hmm. So it made the most sense to me was to throw these events and let the artists keep 100% of what they sell.
Okay.
Because that doesn't exist in any environment outside of them selling direct on Instagram, right? They go to a show, there's always a house cut, so on and so forth. So for me, it was like, let's do this for however long it's financially feasible, right? Because the reality, the cost of throwing the show is minimal in the whole scheme of things. Like,
Yeah.
especially since I don't have a space cost.
Okay.
Because the spaces are generally listings that I represent.
Right.
And I've thrown 11 of these shows so far, and just actually started a brand now that is going to market these shows, and it's really just come around shit that I enjoy.
Okay.
And I've been able to amass like a really cool collection.
Okay.
In the process. But for me, it's like, if I don't enjoy it, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and if that means it costs me money, I don't care.
Right.
There's enough of opportunity out there that, like, I don't need to be the richest real estate broker in the city. I don't have those aspirations. I don't need a Bentley. Like, none of that is who I am. So I'm just really trying to do shit that I enjoy. And
Right.
this is morphed into where it is now, totally different from where it started a year and a half ago.
Right.
I mean, it's fun. So, this year we'll do a art show a month. And, who knows what is coming down the road.
Right.
But, it's already made me money significantly.
Yeah.
I just sold a woman an apartment on the Upper West Side that found me on Instagram because I had rented an artist an apartment, and he shared a story like, this is my apartment, check out Mike, he's a dope dude, and she followed him and then followed me, and
that's crazy.
Now I sold her an apartment.
Yeah.
So, and then there's been other rental transactions here and there, so it's like, not at all am I doing it for that, but I know that the longer I do it, the more that'll come from it, because it just makes sense.
Right.
Like, if you're a good person and you aren't like one to try to take advantage of others, I feel like the universe auto-corrects for you.
Right. I love that. You kind of answered the question already, which is, if it's proven profitable to really mix, art and real estate, and obviously it has for you, which is absolutely amazing. Now, there is something you said that like really sticks to me, which is that you give 100% to the artist.
Yeah.
Why?
There's been because I appreciate what they do, and at the end of the day, I'm really just throwing a networking event. Like, if you look at it from 1,000-foot perspective.
Yeah.
Right? So, you throw any event, there's a cost to it. Like, you own a business, one of the mantras that I truly believe is you need to spend money to make money.
Right.
Right? So, I can spend money on a wide variety of promotional material. I can spend money on a wide variety of lead generating stuff, or I can spend money on shit that I like.
Right.
And when I spend money on shit that I like, it just all seems to work. Like, things seem to connect that wouldn't have connected previously. And like, I have 2 or 3 buyers that I'm working with right now that have come from this series or segment of the world. So it's like, I walk into art shows now and people come say hello to me, and I'm not a fucking artist.
Yeah.
And it's dope. Obviously, that strokes your ego a little. Yeah. Cool, right? But more than anything, it shows me that how little time it takes as long as you focus on whatever the fuck it is. Because 2 years ago, I wasn't doing any of this when it comes to the integration of art and my business. Yeah. So.
And just that one thing could just completely shift.
Yeah. And that doing that one thing has brought me to this point now, which who knows what'll come of it, that we're building a brand, and I have somebody that understands the social landscape better than anybody to help build that brand.
Right.
So like, hadn't I put in that 18 months of work, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So if we came back in 18 months and had another conversation and we're like, fuck, Mike, look at all
right.
hadn't this first domino fallen.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. So when you first started in the real estate business, what would you say, Mike, were the top 3 wasting activities you spent your time on? Top 3.
Alcohol.
Alcohol, okay.
This belief that like you're your own boss, so you can do whatever you want. Like, if I look at like the first 5.5, 6 years of my business, and I'm brutally honest, I was your average real estate agent. I worked 30 hours a week. I drank too much, smoked too much, partied too much, and made 50 to 70 grand a year. Yeah. And then my then girlfriend, now wife, got pregnant with my son and gave me an ultimatum. She told me you gotta make 25 grand in 60 days, or you gotta go find a real job. Wow. And I was like, all right, well, wait a second. I'm like, I've been doing this. I'm like, I've built a knowledge base at this point. I built somewhat of a business. Not really, if you look at it. I'm like, I'm not walking away from that to then have to go work for somebody else and not be happy. And it's all changed since there. And now she works with me.
That's amazing.
As of October.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's required a lot of long nights and early mornings, but you don't get shit if you don't do.
Yeah.
So
the sacrifice is worth it, right?
Yeah. You have to be willing, and your life changes. Like once you have a kid, like, and this is a whole different segment, but like the stuff that was important to you before is no longer important to you at all. It's like a whole different realm. Like anything you did that you enjoyed, you'd be lucky if you do any of that again.
Wow.
It's just life.
That's powerful.
But you get enjoyment out of your child in a different way that you've ever experienced before.
Right, yeah. I mean, clearly it motivated you to like really, really, really step it up.
Yeah. I mean, I had no choice. Like, so I looked at it and I was like, yo, I put in these hours for somebody else and thinking about the time that I spent in retail. I'm like, well, I haven't really applied that to myself.
Yeah.
So like, shut the fuck up, Mike, and go work. Don't ask a thing and go work, and then let's see what comes.
I mean, that's such a like beautiful transparency you have with yourself.
Yeah.
Have you always had that, or like that?
I feel like we always. I feel like we all do. It's just having that inflection point.
Okay.
That because of a lot of variety of things puts us in a position where we have to change.
Right.
Maybe we don't because we're not that person, but I think a lot of us, and for me, I think that was my wife getting pregnant.
Yeah.
I think hadn't she got pregnant and we just continued along our relationship, I probably would have not adjusted my trajectory until maybe that point happened.
Yeah.
So I think it's natural, and I think those moments separate the winners from the losers.
Yeah. So for those guys who don't have, because it sounds like it was a pivot point for you, right?
Absolutely.
For the guys that, you know, they're, again, like you said, are just average right now, and obviously when you don't have a lot of pressure under you, there's no reason for you to like perform at your highest level, what is it called? Highest performance, right? So for the guys that don't have that pressure, how do they go about creating the pressure so that they can actually perform?
It has to be something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to get there. Like, I don't know that there's a formula. Like, okay, well, up, left, down, right. You know, like, I don't think it exists like that. I think we all come to those points at different junctures in our life based off of what we've experienced so far.
Yeah.
And I think you need that tipping point in order to go one way or the other. How do you trigger it? I mean, you figure that out and I think you're rich.
Yeah.
That's generational wealth right there.
Right.
I think the reality is most people won't put in the long days.
Yeah.
Because more people are designed to work for somebody else than to work for themselves.
Right.
Because working for yourself, and that doesn't, they're no different. You're not less of because you work for somebody else versus working for yourself. It's just the cloth you were cut from. Because working for yourself is 2 to 3 times more work with half to a quarter of the money of working for somebody else.
Yeah.
Because if you're not reinvesting in your business, you won't be in business. But that's, you know, it's just, everybody's different. And I think if we're honest with who we are and whether or not you're actually happy in what you're doing, that's really what's most important.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be a superstar. I know the internet wants everybody to believe that, but it's not true.
Yeah. It's a very small percentage of people that actually do that.
Yeah.
In terms of, well, you kind of already answered how you overcame those pay points. So next question is about lead gen, right? Why do you think a lot of agents really struggle to generate the proper leads, right?
Because they don't want to do the shit that they should do. They're lazy. Most people want to do the easiest thing possible, right? So there's statistics that suggest, you know, if you reach out to someone, it takes you 8 to 9 times before you get 8 to 9 no's before you get a yes. Most people quit on the first one, if not the second one.
Yeah.
Very few people make it to 5, let alone 8 to 9. You know, and things take always significantly longer than you originally thought.
Right.
You know, when I walked into this office, we've been in this office here for a little over 4 years now. When I walked in, it was just 2 desks we had in the corner, and I envisioned taking over the whole corner. I thought it was going to happen in a year. It took 3.5 years to take over the whole corner and to grow the team to that level, and everything always takes longer. Nothing happens at the rate you expected, And it's just, that's life.
Yeah.
And once you adjust to that, you move better.
I love that.
Your decision making is different.
Yeah.
Because it's not based on the moment, it's based on the picture.
Yeah. The long term, right. The vision, the goal.
Yeah.
Love that. So what do you recommend, right, for, like you said, I think laziness does play a factor in, because ultimately at the end of the day, lead gen isn't like some fucking like, it's not space rocket. Like, what is it called? What did it say? Science? It's not rocket science. Yeah. Like, it's fairly simple, right? Like, if you follow a systematic process and you do it long enough, you figure out how to do the thing, right?
Correct.
So
10,000 hours.
Right. So here's my question, right? When they do start actually doing the thing that they're supposed to do, is there a specific system or process that has helped you to be able to generate higher quality leads?
So for me, it's never a quality thing, right? I never try to break it down like that. For me, it's more quantity, because I think at the end of the day, you never know where a relationship will go.
Yeah.
And I think by valuing different things by their immediate financial turnaround, you may end up missing out on bigger boats because of where you were focusing. So, at least for me, it's more of more than best.
Right.
But it's a volume thing. It's being okay with connecting with 1%. Or less than 1%, especially if you're out fishing, and there's a variety of things. You can talk about going after landlords, or going after renters, or going after commercial clients, or going after whatever segment of the business, and there's a million ways to do each, but it's being willing to take 99 no's for that one yes.
Yeah.
And most people, they just can't.
Yeah. Love that.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
But, it's, and if you can't, that's okay. There may be other support positions you could do within this business that's not the one generating the business. There's a lot of people that work on a team where a lot of their business comes from the team, right? And they don't have to generate the leads. They're making good money, they're out there transacting, but they're really moving, like helping to move somebody else's business needle. So it really depends on who, and I think it very much so becomes about being honest with yourself. And I think we don't do that. I don't think most people look in the mirror and they're like, all right, you fucked up. Or, all right, you could do this better. All right, oh, you did that well, but then you fucked up this. So apply this to this next time.
Yeah.
And I think that's why most people fail.
Okay. So when you talk about quantity,
so
is quantity more relevant for you? Because I feel personally, there's a saying I love, which is basically like, first you go wide and then you go deep, right? Like in terms of like downlines, for example, you can recruit 100 people, and out of the 100, you're gonna find the quality. So is that why quantity is more important to you?
So for me, I can always hire more agents, right? Hiring agents is easier than finding clients. So if I can continue to help clients, regardless of where it is, I'm in a better position to grow my brand.
Right.
So it's however many clients from whatever segment of the market that they're in, from like entry price point 1 bedrooms to 8-figure deals or 9-figure buildings. The more I can encompass all of it, the more I think makes me unique. Because the majority of my competitors will have a niche, right? Like, oh, I do most of my townhouses on the Upper East Side, or I do rentals in Manhattan, right? Whereas for what I'm building, I'm essentially building a brokerage house,
right? That
we're covering the map. Very few of my competitors operate on both the residential and commercial sides of the world.
Right.
We absolutely do. Because the majority of my clients are landlords and developers.
Yeah.
So I realize that the landscape is changing and technology is coming. And you're going to see mass disruption because so much of this business can be automated. Like immediately. All the tech products exist. Nobody's brought them together.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. I predicted Amazon's entry into the business a year before they
that it actually happened.
With the parent company of where we house.
Yeah.
And that's not a bragging point. It's just understanding that the landscape is changing. So if you're not if you're not someone people trust, they're going to use a computer.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do right now.
Right. But the thing is, that's an interesting statement you made, because although tech is becoming a huge part of this whole endeavor, humans will always appreciate a human touch better.
I disagree with that.
Do you Oh, really?
100%.
Why?
Because we do everything in our power not to engage with people.
Okay.
The phone rings.
Yeah.
And most of our instinctual responses
is not to
fuck.
answer. Yeah.
Why are you calling me?
Yeah.
Right? We look at an email that we don't want to respond to.
Yeah.
And we don't. Or we delay our response. So if you look at like how people get in cabs. People now will get in a shared cab and sit on their phone the whole time.
Yeah.
And not talk to another person.
Yeah.
People will get into a cab just by themselves and never even share a word with the driver other than their name. Hi, Mike. Okay, that's it. Thanks at the end.
That's it.
Right? Whole time you're on your phone. So I think placing value in that which previously was the linchpin to business, that one-on-one connection, I think is changing. I think we want less of this because that's the world we live in, and we want more of this because I can do this from anywhere.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So here's my opposing view on that. My opposing view, the reason why I think the human touch is always going to be there is because I can never get, personally, right now being face-to-face compared to like talking on Instagram, for example, it's not the same.
No, it's not. There's more of a physical connection here.
Right.
But you're placing value in that physical connection.
Whereas other people might not.
Other people's don't.
Right. Did you always believe social media could transform your business?
No. Probably, so I've been putting out video content for 3.5 years now.
Okay.
Shortly before that, I remember having a conversation with somebody that did the like social media work for the company here.
Okay.
And I was like, I just wasn't bought in. I was like, so you mean like you gotta spend all this time and do all this effort and like, what the fuck is gonna come from it? Right?
Yeah.
And, obviously his response is, well, it's longer term and so on and so forth, but my mind wasn't there. My mind was on some, if I'm gonna spend this time, like I need to get a return.
Yeah.
And granted, I was at a different place in like transitioning my business and life and all that other things, blah, blah, blah. But then I eventually was like, fuck it. Let's just, I noticed at that juncture that almost none of my competitors were doing it. And more are starting every day, and there's some that have started recently and have done incredibly well for themselves. But it wasn't always something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. All right. So as of right now, ever since, you really started adopting a strategy on social, in your personal experience, what platform has given you the best ROI?
I don't think there's one.
No?
No, I'm of like your and strategy here, not or.
Okay.
Like I've sold buildings through people I've never met from LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I've sold a house to a woman who Googled New York real estate podcasts. I've done business because people have connected through DM.
Yeah.
I've done business through Facebook Messenger and Facebook groups.
Right.
So I don't think that there's a one.
Each piece of the puzzle has given you something.
I think when you look at the puzzle from further up, I think you realize that it's playing where people are paying attention.
Right.
So like if you're spending most of your time on Facebook and LinkedIn and I'm only on Instagram and TikTok, you'll never know I exist.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm not playing where everybody is, then I'm irrelevant.
I love that.
But at the same time, for me, it's also been like stuff that I enjoy. Like previously, like I spent time on Snapchat. I don't spend any time on Snapchat anymore because it's just boring to me. It's not something that's enjoyable. But it's also shifted. Like I spend significantly less time on Instagram today than I did 12 months ago. And that'll continue to change.
Right.
Right. There may come a point in 10 years where we joke about remember Facebook.
Yeah.
The same way we say remember MySpace, right?
Yeah.
Right? So I think we'll see. I think it's going to be very interesting what the next 10 years looks like. I mean, we're only 11, 12 years into this whole social media experiment.
Right.
You know, it's really in that time changed the way we communicate.
Yeah.
Like if you think about when you get on any mode of transportation, like group shared transportation, bus, train, airplane, everybody's in their own world on their own device. So that device is going to continue to get smaller.
Yeah.
That device is eventually going to become a chip. That device is eventually going to become a contact with an AR overlay. Right? That's probably 10, 15, 25 years down the road.
Yeah.
So it's like, what will that look like then when the amount of information we have to gather and make a decision is literally right here.
The click of your fucking eye.
Yeah, and you know it, and it's automatically rolling because obviously we're at a lot higher bandwidth at that point, so we're able to process data at a significantly greater rate, and now decisions that you might have made 20 years before differently are influenced because of the data set that you have immediately available. Yeah. And I think that's where we're going.
Okay.
So I think focusing on one network and getting back to that, I think limits your ability to grow long term, because the more you fuck around with different networks, the more you learn how to move when something new comes out.
Okay.
Like I've seen the most growth out of any social network on the last 2.5 months I've spent on TikTok. And I think that's a byproduct of the 3.5 previous years.
Yeah.
Because stuff that I did 2 years ago that didn't work on Instagram works incredibly well on TikTok today.
Yeah.
Like New York City Fun Facts was a failed Instagram account that I put up.
Okay.
But I was like, well, let's see if we can't repurpose this now in a video format. And now I put up videos and they get tens of thousands of views.
Yeah. A lot of agents and brokers, they'll often try to take on all these like technological tasks all by themselves, right? And I think doing that usually leads to a lot of failures or a lot of pain points, right? So I know you've really worked on having an actual creative team here before, right? And you're working on building that again. So what are the advantages of hiring a team to keep up with all the fast-changing algorithms, content production, and so forth on?
I mean, first and foremost, I think it's important to learn how to do it yourself, because then you understand the landscape in a way that will allow you, I believe, to create the best content. So like, I taught myself how to edit from YouTube. And the first 300 and so odd pieces of content I put on YouTube were me editing them. Nice. And then I got sick of editing, and I was like, let me hire a team. And now that'll allow me to do a lot more and wider and deeper. Yeah. But I think it's important to do it yourself first. It's easy to throw money at things. Yeah. But you end up throwing a lot more money at it if you don't understand how it moves. So I think that's just the world we're going to. Right. I think you'll see successful individuals have 3 to 5 person teams. Yeah. And I think a lot of that would have been previously stuff that you might have sent to an ad agency, or you might have had like a marketing person that you paid. I think a lot of it, because of the advancements in technology, is shit coming in-house.
So first, be a practitioner and then pass that on to your team, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. Okay, I agree. Love that. All right, next question. So initially you started off on your own, right? How did you go about building the team that you have now? How did that whole process happen?
So when I found out that my wife was pregnant, at that point my pops was running the team, which was like me and him. Like it was just because he was older, and I had a conversation with him, and I was like, yo, you're old, right? You're only getting older, like you're doing less and less. I need you to step away. I need you to let me make all the decisions. I'm going to be the one that runs this show, because like I have a family and a future to worry about. And you're done with your career for the most part. Yeah. And without blinking an eye, he said yes. We do have a very reality TV show-esque relationship. So that conversation was definitely a lot more HBO than network TV. Okay. And then it was, I wanted to go out. So most teams are set up where the team members are there to serve the team leader's business.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't think that was a winning model. I still don't think it's a winning model. I do think at a certain point when you have such a large business, you do need some people to help with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people being there solely for the point of helping, I just don't see it being long-term sustainable, right? So my focus is on helping my agents grow their business because I think I'm best fit to build what I'm building if I build a family structure.
Okay.
And I build something where the people that are the closest to me and that I spend the most time with, because we spend more time with our coworkers than we do our family, are good people that are striving to grow themselves, right? This way the shit that comes from me is like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my focus has been. And, it's just been keep your foot on the gas. And it went from 3-4 people on the team to 8-9 people on the team back to 6. Because people change all the time. And there's people that you think are going to be great that just totally fizzle out. Or there's people that totally fizzle out and then they eventually have that tipping point that we were talking about earlier. And then they shoot through the stars. So, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and we're currently at 13.
Yeah.
And probably by like summer we'll be somewhere near like 20.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna hold for probably about 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Just to get comfortable holding that much weight.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's a lot of responsibility in having these people that work under me. Like I have to spend time, and there's a variety of issues that come up, and so on and so forth. And my wife and I joke all the time that like the fights that I'm fighting are never my fights. They're always somebody else's fights.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that, but it's a growing process.
Yeah.
And for me it's just, continue to keep your head down and work, and 15 years from now you look back and be like, oh, it all kind of worked out.
Yeah, okay. Now how do you go about keeping, obviously, the bigger your team gets, the harder it is to actually have a culture, like a specific set culture that you believe in, that you instill into all of them, right? How do you go about creating culture with the current people that you have?
I think it goes a lot into hiring and firing. So it's like, as quick as you can hire should be as quick as you fire.
Okay.
Right? If somebody's not the right fit or somebody's behaviors don't align with what you want, you got to fire them. Doesn't matter how much they produce. It doesn't make a difference in the world. If somebody's not operating at that level, they're just lazy, or they're then it becomes this is something I learned from back in my retail days. It's like if somebody has the tools and resources to be successful, either A, they don't know how to, or B, they don't want to.
Yeah.
So if they don't know how to, then it becomes spending time to help them get there, right? And if they don't want to, then it becomes showing them the door.
Okay.
Right? I think a lot of it comes to people will mimic what they see.
Yeah.
So, if they see me out there constantly, and you'll see it on my Instagram story, you'll see it anywhere, constantly early in the morning till late at night, they're going to maybe be more likely to take that appointment that they weren't going to take because that's what they're around. So I think it becomes essential to, drive that, especially if you're the leader. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, you're leading by example.
That's it. I can't ask somebody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself.
Yeah.
And when your people understand that, they'll do anything for you.
Right. Okay.
Like I've mopped up apartments because they needed to be clean.
Yeah.
I've dropped everything to deliver paperwork for people. Like I've gone, and I can think of a million different things. But it's spending that and being that true support that will create what you're looking for.
Yeah. It's like that concept of leaders eat last.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't always want to eat last.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Do you think there is a specific fine line or a specific, timeline when someone is building their business? Do you think they should, try to hire someone to work with them immediately? Or is there a certain point that they need to get to before they should start trying to hire others?
I think when you get to a point that your workload is more than you can handle,
yes,
then that's probably what you could consider. Or when you see it getting to that close point of being more than you can handle. I think if it becomes hiring somebody so you're taking stuff off of your plate when your plate isn't truly full, I think that'll fizzle out eventually. Okay. So I think it's being honest with where your work is and what you're building.
Yeah.
And I think you hire different people for different positions.
Right.
Right. Not everybody you hire is going to do exactly the same thing, and not everybody you hire is going to be as successful as each other. So I think more than anything, it's, hire quickly and fire just as quickly.
Okay. All right. So where do you imagine the real estate market to be like in New York City in the next 5 years?
So I think we're going to see probably Amazon make a significant push into the automation of certain segments of the business. So I think the high-end luxury rental market is probably the most vulnerable to being eaten by technology.
Yeah.
Because you could theoretically today build a product that allows end consumers to 100% bypass a broker, and it'll still allow developers to rent their units at significantly lower costs, especially because they don't have to compensate brokers. So I think that's going to be the first segment. I think you'll see that probably in about the 5-year point begin. Yeah. And once that happens, I think nationally, you'll probably see 50% of the real estate agents go out of business.
Wow.
So you'll see a halving of the amount of licensed agents. And it's probably a good thing, because anybody that's doing this for a while will tell you that there's only but a few people that are doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of movement in and out of the door, and just real estate. Like in New York, 80% of the people that get a real estate license don't renew it in the 2 years when it expires.
Right.
Because of a lot of reasons. One, because it's running a business, and most people don't have the strength to run a business. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, and it can be very stressful. And if you can,
not even can be, it is very stressful.
I mean, it depends on how you process stress.
Yeah.
But I think you'll see technology. I think you're gonna, in 5 years, just begin to see technology taking away real estate agent jobs.
Yeah.
And I think that'll segment what the next 5 years looks like.
Okay.
But there's a huge, I don't think it's gonna replace agents, but I do think that in a 10 to 15 year period, you'll see probably 10% of the workforce that you see today still actively doing this, and they'll be the ones that have built a brand and spent time on social and are thought leader within the industry.
Yeah.
The rest of these transactional brokers are going to go end up doing something else.
Okay, about that. The quality will be better.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because you're competing against a computer.
Right. All right. Last question here. So, Mike, for all the people out there, right, who have a license and they just kind of be laying idle, like you said, right, not taking action, or the agents who are already, they're doing okay, but they want to kick more ass, right? What words of encouragement do you have for them?
Say goodbye to your family. Plan to put in 70 to 80 hour weeks for 2 to 3 years, and then take a look back at where you've grown and decide at that juncture what you want to do next. You can take that growth and sustain it probably with less hours at that point. Probably you could go to like a 50 to 60 hour work week and sustain that growth that you've seen in those 3 years, or you can continue to put your head down.
Yeah.
It's really what it becomes. It's are you willing to do the work? That everybody wants to be like, well, what about the family and personal time? That's great. You're running a fucking business. Let's be fucking real.
Yeah.
And those that do that win.
Yeah.
Those that don't, and those that come up with the excuses, and those that waste time doing other things that aren't productive for their business, continue doing what they're doing.
Right.
And eventually fizzled out by technology.
Yeah. Got it. And where can people find you?
Everywhere on social, Mike Schulte, NYC.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your
pleasure.
time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Dope.
If you're right now trying to build some type of business, right, or you just want to build your reputation in general, I think it's really important that you establish what your end goal is. And ultimately, the conversation is always going to be the same, which is, what is your end goal, right? If your end goal is to connect with businesses that are, if your end goal is to connect with personal brands, for example, that have a massive amount of impact in the market, for example, the whole purpose of building a relationship is, number one, because you need people in order to grow your business, right? That's the first reason. You need people. Number two, you cannot grow without people. Number three, it's a lot faster to get to the goal when there's somebody who's already closer to it. So what do I mean by that? If you want to become if you want to become like, let's call it an artist, you want to become a well-known artist, it'll be a lot easier for you to accomplish that if you're already working with someone who's already a successful artist, right? Like it's a no-brainer, right? It's the law of association. You hang around with people that have normal jobs, do normal things, are normal at their jobs, they're average, then guess what? You're gonna be the same. But if you put yourself in a position where you're networking, you're building a relationship with people who have a higher influence in the market than you because they've been doing it longer, either they've been doing it longer or they just excel at it a lot better than you do, right? So if you do that, that allows you to take, it really allows you to, we can stop here real quickly. What it allows you to do is that you're cutting the time in between you building whatever it is that you're actually building, right? You're cutting your time frame, you're cutting the time that it takes you to, what is it called? There's a word for it, hold on. There you go. So essentially what you're doing by associating yourself, what you're doing by associating yourself with these type of individuals is that it's allowing you to really shortcut your learning curve, right? Your learning curve is going to be much, much better. You're going to learn a lot faster because, again, you're learning from people who are already doing it so well. So that's the reason why you should really, really focus on building relationships, because it allows you to do that, right? It allows you to take that shortcut. It allows you, and when I say shortcut, I don't mean it in a bad way, right? Because people will tell you shortcuts are not good, and I agree, shortcuts are not good. But if you can minimize the amount of pain, if you can minimize the amount of time it takes for you to get to your end goal, doesn't it make sense to do that rather than spend all your time, trying to figure it out yourself? Well, no, build a circle that already knows what the hell they're doing, and then that's going to automatically transcribe back to you. So that's the reason why you want to be building more relationships.